700,000-year-old skull found in Greece completely shatters the out-of-Africa theory. The bone, found in a cave, is the oldest modern human fossil ever discovered in Europe. It hints that humans began leaving Africa far earlier than once thought. I have been to this cave. It's in northern Greece, and it's very extensive. It's actually, you pay a ticket. It's a tourist place, tourist destination. You pay a ticket and you're allowed to go in. And it's a very extensive cave. Obviously, they use this cave to shield themselves from the elements and from ferocious beasts and animals. And I don't know, I would call it, a horizontal or a level apartment building type of thing. Now, in 1959, a human skull that has been dated back to 700,000 years and is now known as the Petralina Man. This is called the Petralina Cave, or the Arcanthropus of Petralina, meaning the archaic human of Petralina, was unearthed. And since that time, researchers have been pondering the question of where exactly this skull came from, which has sparked a significant amount of discussion. The skull, which was found lodged in the wall of the cave in Petralina, located close to the peninsula of Halkidiki, northern Greece, is considered to be the oldest human Europoid showing European traits. A shepherd accidentally discovered the cave, which is filled with stalactites and stalagmites, and in the following years, researchers also unearthed a vast quantity of fossils, which included pre-human species, animal hair, petrified wood, stone, and bone tools, and other artifacts. The president of the Petralina community gave the skull to the University of Salonika in Greece. The agreement stated that once the investigation was completed, a museum displaying the findings from the Petralina cave would be opened and the skull would be returned to the display to be displayed in the museum. However, this promise was never fulfilled, as is the usual case with Greek antiquities. They just disappear. Dr. Aris Poulianos, an expert anthropologist who was working in the University of Moscow during that time, was tasked with conducting research on the skull and the cave. He was a member of the UNESCO IUAES, which stands for the International Union of Anthropological and Ethnological Sciences, and later he founded the Anthropological Association of Greece. Dr. Poulianos' prior work, titled The Origin of the Greeks, had already gained him notoriety. His research into the cranial and anthropometric characteristics of contemporary Greeks provided the foundation for his thesis, which demonstrated that present Greeks are descendants of ancient Greeks and not Slavic nations. Dr. Poulianos has studied early hominid remains discovered in a cave in Petralina, Greece since the 1970s, and is well known for his contentious age estimates. The Petralina cave, according to Dr. Poulianos, was unintentionally found in 1959 by local villagers who were looking for a spring in a mountainside. The presence of the plethora of caves in the country, where limestone makes up 65% of the ground, is entirely natural. Furthermore, Greece is the world's second most cave-rich country, trailing only to China. Thousands of these formations have been investigated, mapped, and studied, and over 100 have been recognized as being of exceptional interest to visitors. The Petralina Man, also known as Arcanthropus of Petralina, was revealed to be 700,000 years old, making it the oldest human Europoid of that age ever unearthed in Europe. It has been established through Dr. Poulianos' research that the Petralina Man did not originate in Africa, but rather evolved independently in Europe. The out-of-Africa theory proposes that anatomically modern humans, known as Homo sapiens, originated in Africa between 200,000 and 100,000 years ago before spreading to the rest of the world. This notion was based on the fact that the majority of prehistoric fossils were discovered in Africa. In 1964, two German researchers, Breitinger and Sickenberg, tried to disprove Dr. Poulianos' findings by saying that the skull was only 50,000 years old and that it was from an ancestor who came from Africa. But research that was published in the US in 1971 in their respected archaeological magazine confirmed that the skull was in fact 700,000 years old. And this was determined by looking at the layers of the cave and the sediment where the skull was found. Further research in the cave led to the discovery of fossils from many different species, isolated teeth as well as two pre-human skeletons, which were 800,000 years old. In September 1995, Dr. Poulianos presented a calcified tibia found in Triglia halkidiki, which he claimed belonged to a Homo erectus, from the form he termed Homo erectus trilliensis, spreading all over the world from this region of Greece, from the Aegean, of the southeast of Europe 13 million years ago, which he dated to 11 million years before the present. Poulianos believes that his discovery may change the out-of-Africa theory regarding human evolution. Most scientists who have looked at the Petralina remains say that the cranium of the Arcanthropus of Petralina is from a different kind of ancient human than Homo erectus, and from both traditional Neanderthals and modern humans in terms of anatomy, but with traits of all three species and strong European traits. A skull from 700,000 years ago that is either all or part Homo sapiens goes against the out-of-Africa theory of how people evolved. International researchers, 46 specialists from 12 countries, continued excavations in the cave of Petralina, which provided additional evidence for Dr. Poulianos' claims. It includes fossilized wood, an oak leaf, animal hair, and coprolite, which means SHIT, which enabled accurate dating, as well as the almost continuous presence of stone and bone tools of the Acanthropus evolutionary stage, from the lower 750,000 years to the upper 550,000 years layers of sediment within the cave. The research was conducted up until 1983, with an interruption caused by the dictatorship in Greece. The government then forbade any further excavations at the site, including by the original archaeological team for the next 15 years. No one had access to the site or the discoveries, and no explanation was given. However, Dr. Poulianos' research was buried because it ran counter to the prevailing theory of human evolution at the time. In 2012, Dr. Poulianos and his wife were injured, but the people responsible for it were not found. He and his team have not been able to go back to the cave to finish their research, and the whereabouts of the skull is now unknown. As we said, a lot of things, weird things, archaeological finds just disappear when they're given to the archaeological authorities of the government. Isn't that, it's devastating. This is by Vicky Verma and Hans and Wise on Collective Spark. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.